Maya just another waitress, balancing trays and unpaid bills until she saw the little boy step into traffic. Without thinking, she ran, past screeching tires, past gasps and horns. She pulled him to safety just seconds before a van tore through the intersection. She thought that was the end of it, a close call, a lucky break. Back to the Silver Spoon Diner and a life she'd long since stopped trying to fix. But the next morning, everything changed. A black SUV appeared outside her apartment, and out stepped Damien Ashford, guarded and emotionally Forzen tech billionaire. He was the boy's father. What followed wasn't a thank you, it was a collision of lives. Maya, grieving the child she once lost. Damien, unable to connect with the one he still had. And Liam, a silent boy who saw both of them clearer than they saw themselves. Because sometimes a single act of courage doesn't just save someone. It brings together the people who need each other the most. This isn't a story about money. It's about love. Messy, healing, real, the kind you find in pancakes, paper crowns, and the family you choose when the world least expects it. Maya Brooks didn't expect anything from her Wednesday morning shift. Maybe a stiff tip, maybe another cracked plate. What she didn't expect was to become someone's miracle. It started with the sound, not the sizzle of hash browns, not the clatter of ceramic. It was sharper, rubber screaming against asphalt, followed by a gasp that rose from a dozen throats in unison. She turned her head toward the window. Time slowed. A boy, small, frozen, terrified, stood in the middle of the crosswalk. A delivery van was barreling down the hill, its driver slamming the horn too late to stop. Maya dropped the tray she was carrying. Plates shattered around her. She vaulted over the counter and through the diner's swinging door, legs moving before thought could catch up. She reached the boy with barely a second to spare. Her arms wrapped around his tiny frame, pulling him back as the van roared past, missing them by inches. The gust of wind it left behind knocked her breath out. They fell together onto the curb. For a moment there was nothing but the boy's sobs, and her heartbeat pounding like a war drum. People gathered. Someone called an ambulance. Maya held the boy tighter. At the hospital, paramedics checked her for bruises. Her knees were scraped, her palms bloody, but she waved them off. "Check the kid," she said. "He's the one who matters." But the boy wouldn't speak, wouldn't even say his name. The only clue was scribbled in fading ink inside his coat. Liam. No parent came, no emergency contact. The nurses looked worried. CPS was notified. A social worker showed up with a clipboard, asking Maya more questions than she had answers for. And still, she stayed. That night, Maya sat beside Liam in the dimly lit pediatric wing. She offered him fries from the vending machine. He took one, slowly, chewing like it might vanish if he blinked. Then he handed her a napkin. On it, in childlike scrawl, was a drawing. A boy holding hands with a woman, both standing beside a diner under a crooked sun. The woman had wings. Maya stared at it, throat tight. She didn't know it yet, but saving Liam wasn't a one-time event, because the next morning a sleek black SUV rolled up outside the hospital. The man who stepped out wore a suit so tailored it looked like armor. His eyes scanned the entrance like a battlefield. He walked in, looked at Liam, then at Maya, like he'd just seen a ghost. His name was Damien Ashford, and this wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Damien Ashford didn't say a word for the first minute. He stood outside Liam's hospital room. He just watched. His son sat on the edge of the hospital bed, his hands gripping a juice box, his eyes trained on Maya, the stranger, the waitress, the woman who'd thrown herself into the street for him. Damien's jaw clenched, not from anger, from something older, guilt, maybe, or fear. When he finally stepped into the room, Liam didn't move, didn't look up. Maya, sitting in the chair beside him, glanced over. Her eyes narrowed slightly, protective, grounded, not afraid of who Damien was or what he represented. "I'm his father," Damien said. Liam flinched. Maya rose, instinctively placing herself between them. "He hasn't said a word since yesterday. No family showed up. They were going to call the state." Damien exhaled. "He slipped away from the nanny. I was in a meeting. I didn't—" He didn't finish the sentence. She didn't ask him to. Instead, Maya offered him the napkin, the one with the drawing, the woman with wings. Damien stared at it like it was a punch to the chest. "He drew this?" He handed it to me. Another long silence. Finally, Damien turned to his son. "Come on, Liam, let's go." But Liam didn't move. "He won't go with anyone," Maya said gently. "Except me." Damien swallowed hard. "I'll arrange for transport and security." Maya raised a brow. "He doesn't need a motorcade. He needs someone to sit next to him and eat vending machine fries." He looked at her again. Really looked. This woman wasn't trying to impress him. She wasn't bending, wasn't taking the check he had ready in his coat pocket. She wasn't for sale, and somehow that rattled him more than any corporate deal ever had. "Thank you," he said finally. It sounded foreign coming out of his mouth. Maya didn't respond. She was already sitting back down, opening another juice box for Liam, her body curved protectively in that small hospital chair. Damien took one last look at the napkin. Then he walked out, but he wasn't finished, because later that night, Liam asked the nurse where Maya was. Not his father, not his nanny. And so the next morning, the SUV returned. This time, Damien Ashford rang Maya Brooks' apartment buzzer and didn't leave until she opened the door. Damien looked completely out of place. He stood in Maya's narrow hallway, hands in his pockets, shoulders rigid. His $1,000 shoes touched a floor sticky with apple juice. He didn't comment on it. Maya crossed her arms. "You followed me home. You left before we could talk. We talked. You said thank you. I didn't say you're welcome." He paused. "Liam wouldn't leave the hospital without you." She blinked. "You brought him here." Damien stepped aside. Behind him, Liam stood with a crayon drawing clutched in his hand. Maya's expression softened instantly. "Come on in, sweetheart." He slipped past Damien like smoke and climbed onto the couch like it was familiar, like it was safe. Maya looked at Damien. "You're lucky I'm not calling the cops." "Would you?" "I might, depending on how weird this gets." Damien gave the faintest smirk. "I brought breakfast." He held up a paper bag. Maya took it and peeked inside. Pancakes, lukewarm, greasy. She laughed despite herself. "Fine, you've got 5 minutes." They ate at the small kitchen table, knees bumping beneath it. Liam drew quietly on a napkin. Damien tried to relax. "He likes you. I like him too. You don't even know him." Maya looked at Damien then. "Neither do you." Silence. Later, when Damien offered her money again, clean, quiet, substantial, Maya shook her head. "I don't want your check." "What do you want?" She paused. "Time, patience, stability, the kind of things money doesn't always buy." Damien nodded once. Slowly, respectfully, they left it at that. But as he closed the apartment door behind him, Liam rushed back in to hug Maya around the waist. She knelt. "You okay, buddy?" He nodded. Then he whispered, "Can I come again tomorrow?" She looked at Damien. He looked back. And for the first time they were on the same page. The penthouse was stunning, but lifeless. Polished floors, immaculate surfaces, furniture no one sat in, toys in unopened boxes, and in the center of Liam's room, a perfectly made bed with no signs of a child ever sleeping in it. Maya didn't belong here. She knew it the moment the elevator doors opened. But she wasn't here for Damien. She was here for Liam. He walked into the apartment hesitantly, clutching her hand like it was a lifeline. She let him. She always would. Damien stood nearby, watching, nervous. It didn't fit him. Billionaires didn't fidget. Maya scanned the room. "Where are his drawings?" Damien blinked. "What? His pictures? His mess? Where's his life?" Damien looked around as if noticing for the first time how sterile it was. His voice dropped. "He hasn't wanted to unpack since—" He didn't finish the sentence. Maya didn't press. She could fill in the blank. Maya walked over to Liam's nightstand. On it sat a single picture frame, cracked in one corner. She picked it up gently. The photo inside showed a family of 3. Damien, a woman, Liam's mother, and a much younger Liam laughing in her arms. The glass was chipped, but the smile was intact. "Does he talk about her?" Maya asked. Damien hesitated, not out loud, but he draws her, with wings, like in that napkin picture. Maya placed the frame back carefully, facing outward. "You shouldn't hide her," she said. He swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to. I just didn't know what to do with all of this." "Then maybe don't do it alone." That night, Liam wouldn't sleep in his bed, so Maya set up a makeshift nest of blankets on the floor. She lay beside him until he drifted off, holding the photo frame against his chest. Damien stood in the doorway watching them. He'd built entire companies from scratch, but building trust, building love, that was foreign ground. And yet, somehow, Maya had walked into his world, tracked mud on the carpet, and made it better. The next morning, Maya woke up to her name trending online. Hero Waitress bonds with billionaire's son. Angel on asphalt. From booth to boardroom, paparazzi camped outside her building. Journalists called the diner. People wanted to hear her side, except no one had actually asked what it was. Damien was livid. They're following Liam, taking photos at his school. "They found his school?" Maya's voice was sharp. Mother Bear sharp. "I'm pulling him out today." "You can't just yank him around," she snapped. "He needs stability." "He needs safety." Maya exhaled. "He needs both." That day she kept Liam with her. They walked through a back alley to the diner, sat in the kitchen, colored napkins, told jokes, ignored the flashing bulbs behind the blinds. When she took him home that night, Damien was waiting in the garage with bags packed. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Somewhere quiet, somewhere no one will follow." "You mean running?" "I mean protecting." She saw it then, the panic in his eyes, the part of him that was still grieving, still guessing, still afraid of messing it all up. "You don't have to do this alone," she said. Damien shook his head. "But I do, because every time I get close, something breaks." "Then maybe," Maya whispered, "you're holding the wrong pieces." Liam tugged on her sleeve. "Can we stay here tonight? With you?" Maya looked down at him. then up at Damien, and something shifted. "Yes," she said. "Stay, but not as fugitives, as a family." They stayed. No press releases, no PR advisors, just three people figuring out how to share space, routines, and quiet moments. Maya's apartment wasn't designed for guests, especially not a billionaire and his son. The plumbing rattled when the heat kicked in. The fridge made a groaning sound every few hours like it resented its job. But the couch was soft, and the windows let in just enough morning light to feel like hope. Liam adjusted instantly. He built a blanket fort in the living room, declared it the headquarters. Maya helped him reinforce it with paper towel rolls and duct tape. Damien watched from the doorway like he was observing a foreign language. "You never made a fort before?" Maya asked, tossing him a pillow. "I've made corporations." "Not the same thing." Damien ducked inside and bumped his head. Liam laughed so hard he snorted. Maya smiled, the sound of it anchoring something deep in her chest. They ate pancakes on paper plates sitting cross-legged on the floor. No linen napkins, no hand-poured espresso, just syrup-sticky fingers and mismatched mugs. Later, when Maya was doing the dishes, Damien approached. I haven't seen him smile like that in a long time. "You don't have to keep saying thank you." "I'm not. I'm just trying to understand." Maya leaned on the counter. "You don't have to understand it. You just have to be in it." That night she tucked Liam into the couch fort. He handed her a crayon drawing. Her, Damien, and himself, holding hands in front of a pancake tower. "We're the breakfast team," he said, eyes heavy with sleep. Damien watched as Maya gently kissed Liam's forehead. Something flickered behind his eyes. Longing, maybe, or recognition. When they were alone, Damien sat on the edge of Maya's bed. "I've been in boardrooms with billions at stake," he said, "and nothing's felt this uncertain." "Welcome to parenting," Maya replied softly. He didn't sleep that night. Not well. But in the morning, when Liam crawled into bed between them, both of them pretended they had. By day 3, the press coverage had exploded. Every angle was analyzed. Who was the mystery waitress? Was she a gold digger, a saint, a plant? Photos of Maya holding Liam's hand on the sidewalk were everywhere. Her cracked window, her unpainted hallway, the burned-out porch light. They turned her life into a spectacle. She hated it. Damien did damage control behind the scenes, making calls, pulling legal favors, but the media machine had already been fed. Now it wanted blood. At the diner, regulars stared at her like she was famous. Her manager told her to take a few days off, until it cools down. At home, she ripped out the internet router after seeing her own face on a gossip blog. Damien offered again. "We can disappear. Private island, no cameras, just us." Maya shook her head. "That's not solving the problem, that's hiding from it." He looked at her, frustrated. "You want to stand there and pretend this circus is manageable?" "No," she said. "I want to stand here and not let it win." They compromised. They moved Liam's bedtime earlier, turned off their phones, covered the windows, and they told stories. Every night, one of them had to make up a bedtime tale. Maya's were magical. Damien's involved spaceships and stock options. Liam's included pancake-powered superheroes. And slowly, the world outside started to matter less. One night, Liam fell asleep with Maya's old apron clutched in his hands. Damien sat beside her on the couch, watching the boy breathe. "I don't think I've ever really known him," he said quietly. You're getting there. I keep waiting for someone to tell me I'm doing this wrong. Maya chuckled. You are, constantly, but so am I. That's the job. Damien reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. It was the first time she let him touch her like that, without expectation, without noise, just real. It was the school assignment that changed everything. Liam's teacher sent home a worksheet, Draw Your Family Tree. Maya found it half finished on the kitchen table. At the top, Liam. Underneath, 2 branches, one with Dad, one with a drawing of a woman with wings and a halo. Maya's heart clenched. Then below that, on a side branch, almost hidden, was a sketch of her, a woman in an apron with a crayon crown. She blinked back tears. Later, when Liam was playing with toy cars, she knelt beside him. Hey, she said softly, holding the drawing. This me? He looked up and nodded. You gave me a crown? You're the pancake queen, he said matter-of-factly. You saved me. Damien stood in the doorway, watching it all. That night, Maya stuck the drawing on the fridge beside a grocery list and overdue bill notices. It didn't belong there, but it did. When Damien saw it later, he paused. He sees you as family. I know. And you? She didn't answer right away. Then she looked at Liam asleep on the couch, arms around his crayon box like a shield. I think I'm starting to see us the same way. The day of the school art show arrived with little warning. Maya had almost forgotten about it. Between dodging reporters, closing the diner at night, and navigating the fragile ecosystem of her tiny apartment, some things fell through the cracks. But not for Liam. He woke up that morning humming, his hands already stained with marker ink before breakfast. He had folded his drawing 3 times, then tucked it into his backpack, like it was a secret too powerful to share too early. Maya brushed his hair as best she could. Damien tied his shoes. They argued over how many granola bars a 6-year-old needed for an art event. The school was buzzing with parents, teachers, and posters painted in glitter and primary colors. Maya scanned the room and immediately felt underdressed. Other moms wore makeup, heels, and polished smiles. She wore jeans, a coffee stain on her sleeve, hair in a messy braid. But Liam's eyes sparkled when he held her hand. That was enough. They walked through rows of clay animals and macaroni frames until they reached Liam's piece. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't symmetrical, it wasn't neat, but it was honest. 3 figures stood in front of a small house, one tall, one in an apron, and one small with a crayon in hand. Behind them was a giant sun. Beneath it, scrawled in block letters, My Real Home. Maya started. Damien stepped closer, breath caught in his throat. A few teachers passed by. One whispered to another, That's the Ashford boy. A third added, That's her. Maya felt the attention, but she didn't move, couldn't. Because at that moment the noise around her quieted, the cameras, the gossip, the doubt, they all melted. What mattered was this. A child who had once been silent had now told the world what his heart looked like. Damien knelt beside Liam. You drew this? Liam nodded. It's true. Maya crouched next to them. Can we keep it when the show's over? Liam looked at her like she'd asked to borrow the sun. Only if we hang it on the fridge. Forever. Done. They should have known peace wouldn't last. The morning after the art show, the drawing went viral. Someone had snapped a photo. A journalist had written a caption, From Lost to Love, the Billionaire's Boy and the Waitress who became his world. It was everywhere. Social media lit up. Talk shows speculated. News vans returned. But this time, it wasn't just Damien's reputation on the line. It was Liam's safety, Maya's privacy, the fragile family they'd built inside those cramped apartment walls. Damien paced the floor. We need a statement. A lawyer, PR strategy. No, Maya said firmly, arms crossed. We need boundaries. She didn't want this life. Not the interviews, the limelight, or the labels. She just wanted Saturday mornings in pajamas, crayon crowns, and burnt pancakes. The little moments the world never clapped for, but meant everything. But boundaries didn't stop the storm. Reporters approached Maya's co-workers. Drones hovered near Liam's school. One woman showed up with a fake petition just to get close enough for a picture. Maya snapped. She unplugged every device in the house, canceled her phone, covered the windows. Damien said, "Let's leave. We can disappear again." She shook her head. "We do that. We teach Liam that running is how you handle pain." "Isn't it?" Damien said quietly. Maya looked at him, something sharp in her voice. "It was, until you two showed up." That night, Liam crawled into bed between them, whispering, "I didn't mean for it to be bad." Maya held him tight. "You didn't. You told your truth. That's never bad." The next morning, Damien made a decision. They wouldn't run. Instead, he called a press conference, not for spectacle, but for clarity. He stood behind a podium, Maya and Liam at his side. No teleprompter, no spin, just his voice. "This is my family," he said, "not by blood, not by image, but by love. And we will not let headlines define us." That clip would go viral too, but this time it wasn't the photo that told the story. It was the truth behind it. And the family who refused to let go of each other, no matter who was watching. It wasn't the proposal Maya imagined as a girl. No candlelit dinners, no kneeling under fireworks, no velvet-lined boxes beneath chandeliers. It came on a Tuesday. Damien was helping fold laundry in her kitchen, something he still did with too much precision. He matched socks like he was solving an algorithm. Liam was napping in the next room, soft snoring barely audible over the sound of the dryer. "I found this," he said, reaching into the drawer. His fingers wrapped around something hidden under a stack of dish rags. Maya turned just in time to see it. A ring, simple, silver, beautiful in a way that didn't try too hard. She blinked. "You put a ring in my rag drawer." "It's where you keep things that matter," he said. Her laugh came out surprised, nervous. She hadn't been expecting it. Not then, not yet. "I don't need a ring," she whispered. "I know," Damien replied. "But I do." She looked down. Her hands were calloused from the garage, from work, from life. The ring didn't look like it belonged on them, and yet it fit. But Maya didn't say yes. Not yet. Instead, she tucked it back in the drawer and closed it gently. Later that night, she found a string tied around her finger. Liam's doing. "In case it falls off," he said. "So you don't forget." Maya kissed his forehead. She wouldn't forget. She just needed time. It was another school project, Liam's favorite kind. This one was a family tree. The instructions were clear. Draw your name at the top, then your parents, siblings, grandparents. Use photos or drawings. Maya found him sitting cross-legged in the living room, paper spread across the floor, crayons scattered like fallen leaves. She crouched down beside him. "You need help?" Liam shook his head. "I'm figuring it out." When he was done, he showed her 3 main branches, One said Dad, the other said Mom, with a small star and the word Heaven in bright blue ink. The third one had no name, just a heart. She traced her finger along the crayon outline. That's me. Liam nodded. You don't need a label. You're just mine. Her throat tightened. Damien came home later and found the drawing taped to the fridge. He looked at the heart branch and smiled without words. That night, Maya didn't need to ask what she was to them. She was already written in crayon, in love, in permanence. Damien hadn't looked in a mirror without flinching in months, not because of age or vanity, because of doubt. He'd spent his life crafting the perfect image, tailored suits, flawless skin, curated power. The man in the mirror had always been in control, but now, standing in Maya's bathroom, toothbrush in his hand, Liam's dinosaur sticker on the mirror's corner, he didn't see power. He saw a man unlearning how to be afraid of being soft. Maya appeared in the doorway, towel on her head, smile crooked with sleep. You're staring again. I'm realizing I like this version of me. Messy, human. He kissed her with toothpaste still foaming in his mouth. She laughed so hard she nearly dropped her coffee. Later that day, he walked past a storefront window and caught his reflection. The suit was gone. His shirt was wrinkled, a smear of grease on his collar from the garage. And he smiled. Not the polished smile from magazines. The real one. The one Liam had started to copy. The one Maya always returned. He didn't need the mirror anymore to tell him who he was becoming. He could feel it in his hands, in their laughter, in this life they were building. One dented, beautiful day at a time. The tree leaned slightly left, supported by 2 encyclopedias and a roll of duct tape. Liam had insisted it be a real tree, and Damien, whose Christmases had always come from design firms, had agreed, even if he didn't know how to anchor it. The ornaments were handmade, some crayon-colored paper circles, some origami stars Maya had folded while waiting for the dryer to finish. Liam hung most of them at his height, making the lower branches droop with joyful clutter. They didn't have a theme, no matching colors, no pre-ordered sets. It was perfect. Maya placed a gold star on the top, one Liam had made at school with his mom's name written in shaky glitter pen. For heaven, he'd whispered before handing it to her. Damien held the ladder steady as Maya climbed to the top, stretching to press the star in place. When she came down, he kissed her hand without thinking. She didn't pull away. The night was loud in the best way. Dolores brought empanadas. Robert showed up with gifts he pretended were from Liam's secret admirer. They burned the ham, then laughed about it for an hour. Liam declared it the best pancake Christmas ever, even though they didn't eat pancakes. After Liam went to bed, Maya and Damien stood in the quiet living room, surrounded by wrapping paper and joy still lingering in the air. I never liked Christmas, Damien said softly. Too staged, too cold. Too lonely, Maya added. He nodded. But this, he looked around. This feels like home. Maya didn't say it out loud, but she agreed. Not just with her head, but with her entire heart. It came in a plain envelope, slipped through the mail slot, with no return address. Inside, a letter from Damien's late wife's parents. Formal, but emotional. They wanted visitation, with Liam, with their only connection to their daughter. Maya read the letter twice. Damien read it once, then crumpled it. No, he said. They never even called. Not once. Now they want to show up like grief is a transaction? Maya sat on the couch, silent. "Do we fight them?" he asked. "We talk to them," she replied. He scoffed. "What, invite them over for tea?" "Maybe not tea, but you owe it to Liam to try, before we decide what wall to build." The meeting happened at a quiet cafe. Public, neutral, safe. The grandparents arrived tense, faces guarded, but when Liam ran up and showed them his art project, the tension cracked. They cried. Maya didn't blame them. Damien kept his arms crossed the whole time, but when they offered to come to Liam's art show as guests, not judges, he agreed. No promises, just possibilities. It wasn't a resolution, but it was human. They hadn't been back to the lake since the day it all began. Liam had asked to go, innocently. Maya hesitated, Damien too. But one Saturday morning they packed sandwiches and jackets and drove out of the city. The lake looked different now. Not because it had changed, but because they had. Still. Quiet, like a mirror holding 1,000 memories beneath its surface. Liam ran to the edge, skipping rocks. Maya and Damien sat on a bench, hands loosely linked, shoulders touching. "You ever think about how different everything would be if I hadn't seen him in the street?" Maya asked. "Every day. You regret it?" I regret everything before it." They didn't speak for a long while. Eventually Liam joined them, with a drawing he'd made on the way, a picture of the lake, the three of them, and a caption that read, "Where we started." They taped it to the fridge later that night, not because they needed the reminder, but because it belonged there, with all the other truths they'd earned. It came without warning, not a metaphor, a literal storm, rain that slammed the city sideways, power lines down, schools closed, streets flooded. Maya's apartment lost power by sundown. Damien suggested a hotel, but Liam cried at the thought of leaving his new room. So they bundled up in blankets, made grilled cheese with flashlights, told scary stories that weren't scary at all. Neighbors started knocking, people Maya had known for years, now looking for shelter. So they opened the garage, pushed the cars to the sides, set up camp stoves, blankets, flashlights. Robert arrived with batteries and a portable heater. Dolores brought rice and beans. Someone else brought cards. By midnight, it wasn't a crisis, it was a community. Damien stood in the middle of it all, watching Maya hand out food like she was born to do it. "You're building something," he whispered. She looked around. "We're building it." That night they slept on garage cots, side by side, Liam between them. And outside, the storm kept raging, but inside, it was warm. After the storm, Maya stood outside the garage, sipping lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug and staring across the street at the empty storefront. "For lease," the sign read. Same sign that had been there for months, peeling, forgotten. Damien noticed her looking. "What are you thinking?" he asked. She sipped. "I'm thinking it has plumbing, a corner window, and enough space for a small desk and a fridge." He raised an eyebrow. "For a business?" "For a home base," she said. "For something that's ours." 2 weeks later, they had the keys, a lease in both their names. Liam carried the clipboard like a general, instructing movers where to put what. Maya brought in her mugs, her apron, a tiny cactus she hadn't watered in months. Damien installed shelves with Robert's help, both pretending not to care about leveling. They painted the walls with leftover buckets from the school's theater department, purple and green. A little crooked, a lot colorful. At the end of the first night, they sat on the floor eating pizza from the box. "I thought rich people didn't sit on floors," Maya teased. "I'm learning." And he was. It started with the finances. Maya wanted to take on a few more customers. Damien thought they should cap intake until things settled. She said he was being too cautious. He said she was being reckless. It escalated faster than either of them expected. "I know how to survive," Maya said, slamming a drawer shut. "You just know how to buffer against loss." Damien stood still, fists clenched. "Maybe that's because I've actually lost something." The silence that followed was heavier than the storm. Maya's voice dropped. "So have I, Damien. Don't pretend grief is a competition." They didn't talk that night. Liam noticed. He made them both pancakes in the morning, burning half of them. Set the plates down in silence. They ate without speaking. Then Damien reached across the table and took Maya's hand. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't want to win anything. I just want to keep this from falling apart." She didn't cry. She didn't smile either, but she squeezed his hand back. And that was the beginning of the apology. Not perfect, not polished, but real. It had been sitting in the drawer for weeks. The ring. Damien hadn't pushed. Maya hadn't asked. But it lingered between them like a song no one finished. One morning, Damien woke up early. He made coffee, his turn, finally not burning it, poured it into her favorite chipped mug, and slipped the ring inside. When Maya took a sip and saw it, she froze. Damien, from across the room, just waited. No speech, no bended knee, just a man standing in a kitchen in a t-shirt and socked feet, hoping. She pulled out the ring and set it on the counter, looked at it, looked at him. Then she said, "Can we do this without the fuss?" He smiled. "That's the plan." She put the ring on her finger. No announcement, no posting, no celebration. Just the soft tap of ceramic mugs and a kiss that tasted like sleep and coffee and commitment. Liam entered the room, saw the ring, and beamed. Finally, they didn't want a big wedding, just a small one. In the garage, string lights, folding chairs, the smell of motor oil and coffee cake in the air. Maya designed the invitations herself. Cardstock, ribbon, Liam's crayon hearts in the corners. The RSVP cards had boxes to check. Yes, no, and only if there are pancakes. Dolores offered to cater. Robert insisted on officiating. Damien's mother sent a string of texts that ranged from shock to genuine support. Maya's guest list was small but meaningful. Co-workers from the diner, their landlord, Liam's art teacher. On the day, Maya wore a white dress she had sewn herself. Lace from a thrift shop curtain, fitted just enough to make her feel beautiful without pretending to be someone else. Damien wore his nicest suit jacket and his most worn-in boots. They exchanged vows over the garage lift, surrounded by loved ones and oil stains and joy. And when they kissed, Liam shouted, "Can we eat now?" Everyone laughed. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was better. The sign arrived a week after the wedding, white background, hand-painted letters. Harbor Garage. Underneath, where things get fixed. Liam had drawn a small heart on the corner. Dolores cried when she saw it. They mounted the sign on a warm Saturday morning, the entire neighborhood watching. Robert handed Maya the screwdriver. She took it with shaking hands. Damien stood behind her, steady. As the final bolt twisted into place, a cheer went up. It wasn't about the garage, not really. It was about a family who had rescued each other, about strangers turned soulmates, about a boy who drew a home. before he ever had one. And it was about the space they had built, not just to work in, but to grow in. A harbor, a home, not perfect, but whole. Winter came soft this year. The first flakes fell as Maya arranged cups of cocoa in mismatched mugs behind the shop counter. Liam watched from the window, nose pressed against the glass, eyes wide. "Do you think it'll be a white Christmas?" he asked. "Only if we believe hard enough," she replied, handing him a marshmallow-topped mug. Robert showed up later that afternoon, scarf askew, hands holding a small, gift-wrapped box. "For Liam," he said, "but also for you two." Inside was a snow globe. Not just any snow globe. It showed a small diner on a quiet street with 3 figures inside, one tall, one small, and one in an apron. Damien stared at it in stunned silence. Maya's fingers trembled as she lifted it, turning it slowly. Snow swirled inside, and for a second, it looked exactly like the day they met. "It's our story," Robert said. "The one you didn't mean to write." That night, they placed it on the mantel next to Liam's latest drawing. Another family portrait, but this time with no labels. Just hands held, smiles drawn. Snow kept falling, so did peace like a blanket over all the noise they used to know. The second storm wasn't like the first. This one wasn't made of sleet or wind, but tension, strain. The creeping exhaustion that comes when even good things stretch too far. Business was booming. Too much. Maya worked double shifts. Damien stayed up late, managing the books. Liam's bedtime stories became rushed. Meals became reheat and eat. And slowly, the glue began to crack. "I'm just saying," Maya said one night, tossing a rag into the sink. "We need help. We can't do this alone." Damien rubbed his forehead. "I'm not hiring someone to mess up what we built." Maya turned, eyebrows raised. "What did we build? You mean what we're burning out trying to hold together?" He didn't answer. They didn't speak again that night. Liam noticed. He didn't ask questions, just handed them each a drawing the next morning, a picture of the 3 of them inside the garage, holding hands again. "I like it when you're happy," he whispered. That day, Maya made a call. She hired help, trained a new mechanic. Damien grumbled but stayed quiet. And a week later, when he saw Maya laugh again, really laugh, head back, eyes soft, he pulled her into the break room and whispered, "You were right." "I usually am," she replied, grinning into his chest. It started with one photo, Maya, Liam, and Damien, standing under the new garage sign, smiling, tired, radiant. Maya pinned it on the wall behind the counter with a magnet shaped like a wrench. Then came more. A Polaroid of Dolores flipping empanadas during the grand opening. A picture Liam drew of Robert holding a bouquet. A blurry selfie of the 3 of them in the car, on their way to nowhere. The wall filled up fast. Customers noticed, brought in their own. "This was my dad's first truck." "That's me at 16, changing oil with Grandpa." The garage transformed into more than a place to fix engines. It became a place to remember who we are when we stop pretending to be anyone else. One afternoon, Liam added a final photo, a printed screenshot from a news article. "Waitress saves child, rewrites billionaire's life." He crossed out the headline with a red crayon and rewrote it. "Family found." They left it there, crooked, bright, honest, exactly like the life they had built, exactly like the love they refused to let the world define for them ever again. The silence returned before anyone realized it was coming. Liam stopped humming in the mornings, stopped narrating his pancake flips. He still smiled, but less often. When Maya asked how school was, he shrugged. When Damien offered to read bedtime stories, Liam said, "I'm not tired," even though his eyes drooped. They didn't panic at first. "He's just growing," Maya said. "Maybe it's a phase," Damien offered. But one night, Maya found Liam sitting in the hallway, knees tucked to his chest, the light from the bathroom casting long shadows on the floor. "What's going on, sweetheart?" He looked up, eyes glistening. "What if it doesn't last?" "What doesn't?" "This," he whispered. "Us." It hit her like a weight to the chest. The uncertainty had seeped in, not through conflict or chaos, but from the past, from what Liam had already learned about the world, that things could disappear, that people left. She pulled him into her lap, arms wrapping tight. "It's okay to be scared," she said. "But look around, Liam. We're not going anywhere." The next day, Damien took Liam to the lake. Just the two of them. They skipped rocks, ate sandwiches with too much mustard, talked about things that didn't matter until the quiet finally cracked. "I don't want to lose her," Liam said. "You won't," Damien replied. "I won't let that happen. You're stuck with both of us." And for the first time in days, Liam laughed again. It was soft, but it was a start. Normal didn't look like what they'd imagined. It looked like coffee in to-go cups and Liam's shoes in the middle of the kitchen. It looked like engine grease under Maya's nails and Damien using a drill for the first time without cursing. It sounded like 3 different Spotify playlists playing from 3 rooms and smelled like cinnamon on some days and burnt toast on others, but it was theirs. They had learned how to fight and come back, how to listen and sometimes still mess it up. They didn't avoid hard conversations anymore. They just scheduled them better. Robert came by every Tuesday to play chess with Damien and complain about his joints. Dolores stopped by with flan or tamales just because. Even Maya's old diner boss visited once and left behind a box of menus and a hug longer than she expected. Liam's room was now covered in posters, stars, cars, a drawing of the lake taped to the ceiling above his bed. He called them Mom and Dad now, quietly at first, then like it had always been that way. The first time he said it in public, Maya nearly dropped a wrench. "I'll get Mom," he'd said to a customer, completely casual. And Maya had to step into the back to catch her breath. Normal wasn't perfect, but perfect was never the goal. The knock came during dinner. It wasn't loud or urgent, just firm, rhythmic, like someone who didn't doubt they'd be welcomed in. Maya opened the door to find a woman in a pressed gray coat, her smile polished but hesitant. Damien stiffened at the table. "Mother," he said. Eleanor Ashford stepped inside like she was entering a boardroom, not a home, where crayon drawings lined the hallway. "I heard about the wedding," she said. Maya set down her fork slowly. "That was 3 months ago." "I'm late then," Eleanor replied. What followed wasn't fireworks. It wasn't a Cold War either. It was stranger than both, cautious courtesy. She brought a photo album. Liam sat beside her, pointing to his art on the fridge. She commented on the grease under Maya's nails, but not cruelly, just noticing. And at the end of the night she said something none of them expected. "You seem happy, all of you." Damien raised an eyebrow. "Would that be a problem?" "No," she said, "just new." And before she left, she hugged Liam tightly. It wasn't perfect, but it was a door, not shut. A door, perhaps, is beginning to open. Liam had something important to announce. He made them sit at the kitchen table after dinner, lights dimmed, his face serious. He wore a tie made from a dish towel and had taped his most recent drawing to a piece of cardboard like it was a legal document. "This is a contract," he said. Maya bit her lip to hide a smile. Damien crossed his arms, playing along. "A contract for what?" Damien asked. "For family rules," Liam replied. He pointed to the drawing. It was at their house, the garage, a car. All three of them were holding hands. Above it, written in careful block letters, "No matter what." "We have to sign," Liam insisted, "so it's real, like forever real." Maya's throat tightened. Damien reached for a pen. "Hand it over." They signed. Liam signed last, then added a heart sticker to the corner. The next day, Maya framed it and hung it above the kitchen counter. Later that week, a customer saw it and asked, "Is that your company motto?" Maya smiled. That's our promise." And it was, no matter what. The garage had never been closed during daylight hours, not even when the pipes burst or when the power went out during last month's rainstorm. It was their rhythm, their pulse. People depended on it. So when Maya hung the "Closed Today" sign, neighbors noticed, but no one asked why, because they already knew. Liam's adoption hearing. They arrived at the courthouse in matching blue, not planned, just instinct. Maya's palms were sweating. Damien's tie was crooked. Liam had a stuffed dinosaur in his backpack and a folded paper drawing in his coat pocket. The judge was kind, stern in a soft way. She asked Liam why he wanted this. He didn't stutter. He didn't shrink. "Because they chose me first," he said, "and I choose them back." It was the quiet afterward that made Maya cry. When the gavel came down, the world didn't change, but their world did. Outside, Dolores threw rice. Robert hugged too long. Maya kissed Damien in front of everyone and didn't care who saw. That night, Liam taped a new drawing to the fridge. It was the same house, the same three figures. Only now all of them had matching names. They visited the lake again, this time on purpose, this time as something whole. It was Liam's idea. One last weekend away before school started, before the garage entered its fall rush, before the rhythms of real life caught up with them again. They rented a small house not far from where everything began. The same lake, the same curve in the road, the same dock where Maya had once held a shivering boy and wondered who would come for him. Now she stood on that dock again, holding the same boy's hand. Older now, stronger. Beside her, Damien spread out a blanket, hot chocolate, marshmallows, blank sketchbooks, 3 pairs of boots neatly lined up in the sand. "Do you think we're different?" Maya asked as the sky turned orange. Damien looked at her. "I think we're more ourselves." That night they built a fire. Liam roasted marshmallows until they were more flame than sugar. Maya let him. Damien snuck a photo. They stayed up too late. Talked about dreams that didn't involve stocks or survival. About opening a second garage one day. About Maya maybe teaching a class. About Liam writing a book. When they left, Maya took a jar and filled it with lake water. She put it on the garage counter the next morning, not because it was special, but because it reminded her where they began and how far they'd come. It was the same assignment, but Liam treated it like a whole new world. Another school project, another family tree. The teacher called it a growth activity, a way to reflect on change, roots, belonging. Liam took it seriously. He cleared the kitchen table. He sharpened every crayon. He opened a fresh folder and labeled it Our Tree. But this time it wasn't just Mom and Dad and Liam. This time it had branches for Robert, Dolores, and even Eleanor, who now sent postcards and surprisingly well-chosen books. There were side branches for Maya's former co-workers, one labeled Diner Friends, and another titled Garage Family. He drew Damien holding a wrench, Maya with her apron and clipboard, and himself in the middle of it all, wearing a paper crown. Maya watched as he colored, her heart stretching with every line. She remembered the first tree he'd drawn. 3 names, 2 stars, 1 heart. This one was bigger, fuller, not neater, but more real. On the presentation day, Liam stood in front of his class, beaming. "This is my family," he said. "It's not perfect, but it's mine." When his classmates clapped, Maya cried a little. So did Damien, though he pretended it was just allergies. They hung the project in the garage that evening, above the register, right next to the "no matter what" crayon contract. Customers noticed, asked about it. Some smiled and nodded. Others lingered longer, staring at the tree like they were remembering something they'd lost, or something they hoped to find. The day started quietly, the kind of quiet you earn, not the uncomfortable kind, but the kind where everything feels in place. Liam was in the kitchen, scribbling another comic about Captain Carburetor. Maya was on the couch, curled up with Damien's hoodie and a cup of too strong coffee. Damien stood in the doorway, just watching. "This is it," he said softly. Maya looked up. "What is?" "This is the life I didn't know how to want. Until you." She didn't need to reply. He walked over and kissed her hair. That afternoon, they drove to the lake one last time. Brought a picnic. Wore scarves and boots and smiles they didn't apologize for. They spread the blanket, ate too much cheese, laughed when Damien spilled cider down his shirt. Liam drew in the dirt with a stick, carving out the words, "We live here," even though they didn't. But in a way they did. It was a part of them now, that water, that sky, that bench near the dock where they'd once sat, with too many questions and not enough answers. As the sun set, Maya pulled out a little velvet pouch. Inside was a second ring, not as an engagement, not as a replacement, but as a match. "For Liam," she said. "Why, so he never forgets he chose us too." The 3 of them stood together, hands linked, hearts steadier than they'd ever been. Years from now, people would still whisper about the woman who saved a boy in the middle of traffic, about the billionaire who gave up a boardroom for a grease-stained garage, about a child who taught them both how to stay. But the truth wasn't in headlines. It lived in a kitchen with pancakes, in a garage filled with stories, in crayon drawings, paper crowns, and quiet "I love yous" whispered before sleep. It lived in every moment they chose each other again, no matter what. Forever.